Saints. It's not an institution, it's an experience. It's a place where it's okay for a young man to make a mistake. It's a place where he's encouraged to grow, to become a man. It's a process. It's a place where young men learn to become a brother. It's a place where teachers also learn. Saints is a family. It's a celebration.
Saints shaped my life in the sense that it gave me a tremendous example when I was a young adult. I was able to observe the Augustinian priests, who on one hand were fairly worldly, but on the other they were very compassionate, kind, gentle, wonderful teachers, and they were just all around good men, and they gave me a life to emulate.
Mother Evelyn Joseph called my mother and said, "You got a scholarship to St. Augustine's," and I didn't even know what a St. Augustine was. And we come up here, and the first day I walked in here, I just felt like I was home. And I've been home ever since.
I think of Saints as my family. I think it's a place where I feel very comfortable and where I'll always belong.
Giving back is really important to me because Saints gave me the opportunity to be the man that I really wanted to be. I always knew I had that potential, and Saints really brought that out in me.
You never get the spirit of St. Augustine High School out of your life. It's a spirit of brotherhood, it's a spirit of trust, it's a spirit like a big family.
I had my son, same year, a classmate of mine, Tommy Davis, had his son. And I remember talking with him, and we were there with our two infants, proud fathers, and he says, "Hey, we're going to send our boys to Saints at the same time, aren't we?" And I said, "Of course." There was never any doubt in my mind. I lived out of town in Bakersfield, but I knew that Danny, Sammy, and Joaquin, and I'm hopeful my fourth son will be able to, but they were destined. I knew they were going to be Saints, and there was any doubt in my mind.
In those days, of course, there was nothing around the school but sagebrush and jackrabbits, which, if you could run fast enough, you might be able to catch a few of them. But the school since then, as you can see, has developed tremendously into a very, very beautiful school and grounds.
Well, I had been here for 4 years, and I saw the way they worked and operated and their spiritual life, and I guess that helped me. You know, you never can tell how a vocation comes about.
Well, in 1943, I was lucky to go to school with a great bunch of men, and I see the young men today that I go to the baseball games with my step-grandson, Glenn Davis, and they are the same type of individuals, just great individuals.
I bought an old 1928 Buick for $15, and I got a year's gas stamps with it. And we used that car to go to LA for the basketball team. I was the basketball manager. And Father Sullivan was in that car, and Father McLaughlin. We had an accident on the way. And we ended up being a couple of days late getting back. And the parents and the school hardly understood that there was a good reason for that. When they got back, everyone remembered it. And I think that nearly everyone who was in that car remembers it today as the 1928 Buick and the trip to LA.
I would have to say Father Glenn taking the keys to my Studebaker away from me. Very humiliating. But then I should not have been drag racing up Bancroft either, especially at high noon.
Back in 1954, 55, when Chuck was going to school here, the tuition was about $125 a year. Chuck didn't pay his tuition one quarter. Father Danaher came up to him and said, "You owe your 31 1/4, and we need it." And he said, "Well, Father, I haven't got it. I'm trying to work it out." He says, "Well, I think you ought to take a week off, get a job, and bring it back." So Chuck took a week off school, went to work at a shoe store up in North Park, and brought the money back, and he was still in school and graduated.
My first day at Saints was a frightening experience for a 13-year-old coming from what I'll say is a foreign country, Detroit, Michigan to San Diego. But fortunately, I was put in a St. Augustine's with all the boys, and I was taken in as a friend very quickly. In fact, one of the memories that I have is that starting my first day in school, Father Kane's algebra class, the fellow that sat behind me and kept whispering a little bit too loudly, as I remember, was Bill Quirk. And as you know, you sat in alphabetical order, so PQ. He seemed to be sitting behind me for several classes that day. So we became dear friends and just celebrated a birthday together this past weekend.
It's a tonic for me. This is my 32nd year. I've done it freely. I want to be here. I've taught and come in contact with literally thousands of people, all of which I found tremendously enlightening. I've learned as much from the students and the other faculty members as I've ever learned from any book and so forth, and I think that's an important thing. That makes me feel young. I'm sir to them, they're sir to me.
The kids are the same. The kids want to play and they want to win, and it's just great. And the camaraderie that comes out of playing baseball and sports is still there, and it'll always be there. Probably the greatest thing that can ever happen to a person, the teamwork and the friends.
Integrity, that we really taught integrity, and probably moral correctness, I think, was something that was part of the school, not just a religious thing, but just to be morally correct about what we did.
Tonight we recall with deliberate effort, each for himself, thinking of his own moment, the days of St. Augustine's. The landscape of our individual experience will be a varied one, but the flocks of memory hover over the patio as we knew it. What saints meant to each of us may be indefinable, but it is also unmistakable.
As I think of saints, I do think of Father Ahern. I think of stature, somebody who we really looked up to.
Saints is a small school, but the product is excellent.
One of the special things about St. Augustine is the ethnic diversity. When I was at St. Jude's, we did have a little bit of separation of races. It wasn't bad, but once I arrived at St. Augustine, all that was gone. To this day, we still have a special bond with everyone that came through St. Augustine. And I think the mutual respect that everyone has for each other has built over the years.
The interactions that the teachers took on a very small class level, most of the classes I had were between 20 and 30 people, gave you a lot of individual attention that you wouldn't get in the much larger classes.
I want to share with the students how great Saints is, and I want them to understand that the experience that we're celebrating is a good experience.
It's really very special having my son Glenn here at St. Augustine High School. As a former undergraduate student myself and as a former faculty member here, I'm very, very proud of the fact that he's decided to accept the challenges that St. Augustine offers. I'm also very proud of him that he's continuing the legacy and the tradition here at St. Augustine.
Yeah, my experience really comes out of having a large family of 6 brothers and 2 sisters. And when I came to Saints, my brothers had been here from 46 through 54. They had already established friendships with other Saints men. The friendships that I established, all those things really have carried on through the years and have become part of family.
Saints has been a major part of my life for over 40 years. I've had the advantage of being here both as a student and later on as a teacher. And I think one of the things that the Augustinians have instilled over the years is a feeling that you're not only part of the community, but you have an obligation to go back and give to the community that's supported you.
Well, it's always rewarding to come across new boys every year, seeing them. You see the way that they have developed and the spirit they have from St. Augustine's.
I felt that they were so real in what they did. They did not just have an agenda, but they were totally devoted to bringing in the freshmen as youngsters and sending them out as young men who could be successful in the community. And I was totally convinced that that was true.
But Saints changed my whole life. And it's due to the Augustinian Fathers and this wonderful school.
As a member of the class of 2000, I feel we all have added responsibilities. We all are changing as individuals, and we're looking forward to the future and carrying on the tradition.
The education process prepared me extensively for what I'm doing now, and the commitment that Saints has to make sure that I did well in that area of education.
One, I believe it established the standards that I use today as a moral code of conduct. 2, it taught me to think. If something fell off the table in physics class, Father Starr would scream at us, why did it fall off? Think about it. What force made it stay on the table? What force made it fall? And so forth. He made you analyze a situation. If and then. There's a series of thoughts.
I've been on the board for about 10 years, and I have seen a transition into a very proactive board, being made up of alumni, faculty, administrators, parents of alumni, and community leaders. I see them really aggressively marketing the image of Saints, upgrading facilities, and really pushing Saints into the 21st century.
I don't think I'm alone among people who've gone through the St. Augustine experience and feeling that this is really one of the major forces that shaped my life. This is a very unique place, populated by unique people, and I think those people have gone out and made an impact in the community.
May sound kind of corny, but there was a lot of love between us, me and my classmates. There was nothing I wouldn't do for these guys.
Each and every one of us who loves Saints has every reason to be proud of our past. And we've been truly blessed to get where we are today. And it's with the greatest of confidence that we embrace the future.
Here we go.